There is a crisis in the Catholic Church. I think that's pretty obvious by now. To anybody who's looking anyway. It is not good. And I think we need to be watchful of bad shepherds. And, well, first, a shepherd, by that I mean the priests, the bishops. Especially the bishops. They're the shepherds. And I was reading the gospel the other day. I was reading John's gospel, chapter 10, verse 11 through 15, when Jesus talks about this. He actually says, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. He who is a hireling and not a shepherd, whose own the sheep are not, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and flees. And the wolf snatches them and scatters them. He flees because he is a hireling and he cares nothing for the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me, as the Father knows me and I know the Father. And I lay down my life for the sheep. So Jesus is telling us he's the good shepherd. He's willing to lay down his life for his sheep. He's also contrasting that with the hireling, or as John wrote in his gospel in the original Greek, misthotos. I probably butchered that, but it basically means hired hand, hired worker. Jesus contrasts that with the hired hand who cares nothing for the sheep. Why? Because he doesn't have a vested interest in the sheep. He's only there for the money. At the first sign of trouble, he runs. And he leaves the sheep to be attacked by the wolves. So I was thinking about that, and I'm thinking about what's going on in the world today with the churches being closed and this coronavirus pandemic, and I thought it's crazy because nowhere in this gospel there is no footnote added at the end of it. Nothing that says, oh, Jesus, he was only talking about being a good shepherd during normal times. And if there's a case of a pandemic or any sort of a health emergency, the good shepherd should retreat back to their home, shut and lock their door, and refuse entry to any of the sheep who wander back. It's not in there because it's ludicrous. Of course, John never put it in there because Jesus never taught that. As a matter of fact, he taught exactly the opposite. He just said, the hired guy runs away at the first sign of trouble. So why are our bishops and our priests, our shepherds, running away right now? The government's telling you to shut the churches down. You can't have mass. Now we can have mass, but we all have to be in a mask and separated by roped off pews, and only 25 or 50% of the people can go. Can't receive communion on the tongue if that's what you want to do. Which all of this is better than it was because it was completely shut down. But where are the good shepherds? Well, there's some of them. They're loud and they're on YouTube, and God bless them because they're calling it for what it is. Unfortunately, they're chastised. Several of them. They are rebuked. They're ostracized. They're silenced. They're made fun of. I think it's a form of a death in a way, if you think about it. It's a good shepherd laying down his life for his flock. And by that I mean figuratively, in the fact that his character is being assassinated. His reputation is being, hurt. So it's obviously not as dramatic, but it's just something I was thinking about. And unfortunately, so many of the bishops and so many of the priests are silent because obviously it's way easier to go with the flow. And it's easier to just do what you're told, fall in line, shut these things down. But when I hear about bishops restricting priests from being able to issue, or restricting priests from being able to administer last rites to people, or baptism to babies. I mean, this is insane. I guess because I have a closer knowledge of the coronavirus, being a firefighter. Every day I go to work, I have to deal with this. And I know several people who have had it. I've been in several houses around patients. I was around 6 on one single call that were all infected with it. And I didn't have a mask on. I got 5 days off for that. We all did, or 10 days off, whatever it was, for that, to make sure we didn't have it. And of course we didn't. None of us did. But thankfully, we could have. Everybody that I know that I've been around that has had this has said it's been like a bad flu. So while the bishops are allowed to withhold and restrict things in extreme times for the greater good, I question, is this really for the greater good? Because I know there's people dying, and I know it's terrible, and I'm extremely sorry for those people and their families. I will pray for them, and I do. I pray for everybody who's been affected by this, and that's every single person in this country and across the world, honestly. But the level of this, our reaction to this, is insane. I mean, it is. To shut down the economy and the schools and then the churches. It's to shut everything down. I mean, the flu kills people. Everybody knows that. Pneumonia kills people every year. It's terrible, but it does. I mean, right now, we go on more calls for substance abuse. And the call might not even be directly for substance abuse. It might be for something else, but the person is under the influence of something. Typically, it's alcohol. And if it's not alcohol, then it's usually prescription medication. But it can be anything. We see that a lot. So there's definitely been an increase of that. I can attest to that. We've talked about it at work, and it's not good. So in those times, is it for the greater good to withhold all of this? The sacraments, the Mass, close the doors? I don't think it is. In my opinion, even I know my job is an essential job. I perform an essential job as a firefighter. I'm not essential myself. I'm performing a job that is essential. The priests and the bishops, they're essential. They are essential. I would argue they're just as essential as me getting on that fire truck going on a call. Because it's our faith. It's our life. Our true life in Jesus Christ, right? Because guess what? I see death every day. I go to work in some form or another. People close to it, people who just missed it, or people who are there. And this is extremely important for people. And I hope that people can I hope they find Christ. And I hope that they pray and, don't get depressed. As I know, aside from the physical death that people have to deal with of loved ones, there's also people who are dealing with astronomical financial bills. Hospitals are notorious for sending the bill out to your house before you're out the door. So I know people now are going to be inundated with medical bills that have had to deal with this, especially ones who've had a hard time and been in the hospital for a long time. And I know there are those that have that too. And I pray for you. I just don't think shutting our economy down and keeping everybody secluded in their house is the way to deal with it, personally. But I especially don't think our good shepherds who should be good, should be closing the church. And I guess the last thing I'd like to do would just be, is like a final analogy, I guess. Think, where would Jesus be if he was here right now? Would he be with the bishops? Would he be with the priests and the bishops that are right there saying, yes, we got to withhold this. We have to shut the churches down. We have to withhold baptism from these babies. Would that be where Jesus is? Seriously? No. We know exactly where he would be, because he did it in the gospel. He didn't do what they told him to do, and he ended up on the cross, crucified. So, I mean, I can't think of a better example. And reading this and thinking about it, and I'm like, wow, this is something I feel is important. So unfortunately, I don't have all the answers. I don't. I just pray, and I just hope everybody out there stays strong, mentally and physically and emotionally, because this is a hard time. And I pray for anybody who's lost anybody because of this, and I pray that we don't lose anybody else from depression or brought about by financial difficulties or substance abuse or anything. There's hope out there, so you can find it, and there's people out there that are praying for you all day, every day, somewhere. There's a nun, there's a priest saying a mass, and there's somebody that's praying for you, whether you believe it or not. So I hope everybody has a good rest of the night, and take care, pray, stay strong. All right.